Well, Cataclysm, I guess to introduce myself first, I'm Tom Chilton. I'm the game director for World of Warcraft. And I think that with Cataclysm, it'll be a little bit of a special exception compared to previous expansion launches. And the reason I say that is because the Cataclysm itself is an in-game event, and it's a very significant event because that's the event where the world fundamentally changes and the Cataclysm happens, and players, when they log in, they're going to see all the changes that were made to the world, regardless of whether or not they bought the expansion. And that will actually happen sometime before the expansion is on shelves. I don't know the exact amount of time yet. We're still working that out, but it could be several weeks or a month, still to be determined. So while there probably won't be a patch the day before, there certainly will be this very significant Cataclysm event that happens at least a couple weeks ahead of time. Ahead of when Cataclysm, the expansion, will be on store shelves, right?
您好，我是 Tom Chilton，我是魔兽世界的游戏设计总监。那么跟您刚刚第一个问题呢，其实我们浩劫与重生这个资料片和过去的资料片会不太一样，因为浩劫与重生的故事其实是发生在游戏世界当中的，它是个非常大的事件，足以改变整个游戏的外貌和世界观，所以所有参与这个游戏的玩家呢，都会感受到这个浩劫所带来的灾难和巨大的改变，大家都看得到的。那不管这个玩家他是买了这个资料片，或是没有买资料片，他都会看到游戏的世界已经跟过去不一样了。那么至于这个所谓浩劫与重生发生的时间点呢，我们预计它会是在这个资料片实际推出之前就发生。那至于是之前多久不一定，所以它不会是所谓前戏就更新，它可能在资料片推出的甚至前几个礼拜，大家在游戏世界中就会看到有这个事件改变了。
Well, I would actually say that that's not entirely true to start with. We do have an underwater zone. However, the combat is actually designed to feel a lot like normal combat. The underwater zone itself is more to just be an environmental change more than an actual gameplay change. There are some subtle gameplay differences that I'll talk about a little bit, but for the most part, players will be on the sea floor fighting as they normally would and moving around as they normally would. The 3D dimension is more to get from point A to point B. So, for example, in the same way that the Druid class currently is able to instantly turn into a flight form and then fly up to some other location, on a higher Z elevation, players will be able to jump up in the air and therefore be swimming and then swim their way up to a higher elevation or a lower elevation, and then essentially do content on that level of elevation.
会，就是我们确实是会设计水面下的战斗，不过它战斗的过程跟我们平常的战斗是很类似的，也就是它只是一个大环境上稍微改变而已。意思就是说，玩家还是会站在海底，跟他们像在平地上这样的方式进行战斗。那这里所谓的360度的差异呢，大概比较明显的地方是在于说，假设我要从 A 地点移动到 B 地点的时候，像现在德鲁伊它可以转换，它可以变形成飞行状态，你可以飞到比较高的地方去。那么对于玩家来说，它一样，它从海底，它如果跳起来的话，就变成往上游，所以它或许可以游到比海比较浅的地方去。改变主要是在这个部分。
Yes, in a way. So a good example of that would be we definitely have examples of that, and I would say a good example of that would be the dual talent spec feature that we have. The dual talent specs were originally a request that I'd heard from players or other employees within the company, and we felt like at the time when we first heard it, 5 years ago almost, we felt like no, it would really undermine the identity of a character to be able to have more than one talent spec at the same time. So that was one of those ideas that I really didn't like at first, but as the years went on and it became more and more clear that players needed to be able to take part in different types of endgame content at the same time, and that those different types of content required different specs to be fully functional. And so, we kind of realized that we had to support that sort of behavior, and that it, more and more made sense to do. And so years later, about a year ago with the Wrath of the Lich King launch and all that, we introduced the dual talent specs.
会发生的吗？那么举个例子好了，就像是所谓的双重天赋这个系统，当初推出来的时候，我们公司所有的人，包括我自己在内，都觉得说这个做其实会让角色的独特性不见了。就是在5年前的时候，我们觉得如果我们真的采取双重天赋的话，那么每个角色它个别的特性就消失了，这样就没有它的独特性存在。可是，在我们这几年，我们看到玩家的意见和回馈之后，我们发现，因为很多玩家他要接高等级任务的时候，他只有一个天赋是不够的，他势必需要开发另一层天赋。所以我们在去年的时候也终于就屈服了，我们也开发出了双重天赋，也让玩家可以采用这样子的升级方式。
Not at the moment. So, while it's certainly, it's not that it wouldn't be useful for players to be able to group up cross server. It just isn't. I don't think it's something that we really need to have right now. Right now, players are able to, since a PvP team is a very persistent thing, almost like a guild. It works to the advantage of players the most if they consistently play on the same server. If you imagine the same thing for a guild, would you have a cross-server guild? My answer would also probably be no. That the whole point is that you play together. I think that with the PvP teams, at least the arena teams that we see right now, and arena teams that will carry on into Cataclysm, it's almost certain that they would still be single server only. And because it's kind of a permanent choice to an extent, I would expect players to change servers if they need to play with the people that they really want to play with.
目前我们其实没有这个计划。当然，你说要跨伺服器打团战，似乎是个不错的点子。不过，其实你看 PvP team 的话，它的作用其实跟工会有点类似。所以，我们目前呢是希望这种，如果你打 PvP 的话，那种团战的还是在同一个伺服器上玩。所以意思就是，假设你问我说，那有没有考虑过说你开一个跨伺服器的工会系统？我们目前的答案也是没有这样子的考量。我觉得就像是你在竞技场打一样，我们希望说它能够在同一个伺服器上玩，这个对它的是有最大的效果的。所以目前的话，我们并没有打算要开跨伺服器的 PVP。
Right. Well, certainly I think the most important thing to me, the right answer to that question would be to make sure that we have the character transfer service become available for players so that they can move to the servers that they need to move to. We really, at this point, are kind of building the game around that expectation. And so I think it'll be very important to make sure that those services become available to players, in ways that they can use. From what I understand, it's not available here, right?
我觉得，如果说要克服这个问题的话，其实当然最好就是我们把整个移民的系统做得很完善。那目前的话，我们还在根据这一点来设计新的游戏的特性和系统。